Hello and welcome to my Rodecaster Pro 2 initial review. And there are a lot of pros to the Rodecaster Pro 2. It's new. Now, while over the past 3.5 years, I feel like I've been able to master the caster when it comes to the Rodecaster Pro 1, I'm still a noob with the 2, a 2 noob. So this is my initial review where we will walk through the features together. By the way, you're listening to audio through the PodMic, through the Rodecaster Pro 2 right now. We're going to walk through as much as possible together. If I covered every feature in depth, this would be, I don't know, longer than Gone with the Wind. None of us have that much time, so I'll do my best to condense things. Then I will also share my thoughts about upgrading and why I think the Rodecaster Pro is pretty awesome and basically one of the best tools that I've ever used in my life. Before we jump to that, though, very important to let you know that Rode did send me this Rodecaster Pro 2 early, which is super cool. Additionally, I firmly believe it's important for you to be aware that I am using beta firmware on the Rodecaster Pro 2 right now, and you beta believe there might be some changes between what you see here and what you see on the final release or future firmware updates. The audio processing, the audio quality is all set, but you might notice some user interface changes or some things moved around. Rode has a really strong record with firmware updates over a long period of time. That's definitely something they're planning to do with the Rodecaster Pro 2 too. So that means that depending on when you're watching this video, you may or may not see different features, different interfaces, all that. And because I've been such a fan of the Rodecaster since the beginning, I've used this almost daily for 3.5 years and I absolutely love it. However, this isn't perfect, especially because it was sort of a device that really kind of had to grow and figure out what it was supposed to be over time. And what that means is I did actually have a small list of features that I wanted to see improved on the Rodecaster Pro 2 if there ever was one. And I put this list together like over a year ago. They have gone so far above and beyond the stuff on my list. I couldn't have even imagined putting something like this together. So I do want to talk about that first since I think it's very important. My wish list, my number one request for the Rodecaster Pro 2 was better headphone preamps. The headphones have been rebuilt from the ground up, and I am very, very happy to confirm that what you hear in the headphones is not only exactly what the recording sounds like, but it is super clean. There's not any extra hiss or fuzz or buzz or anything. These are incredibly clean headphone preamps. And that ties into my second request, which was more clean gain. 55 decibels on the Rodecaster Pro was fine, but pretty much anytime I was using a dynamic microphone, I found myself using a booster of some kind. So not only does the Rodecaster Pro have 76 decibels of clean gain, but as you might have seen by now, Rode claims that it is so clean, it's approaching the theoretical limit of how clean a preamp can be. So much so that if you do add in a booster, like a Fethead or a Cloudlifter, you will actually make the signal noisier. And you better believe it was the very first thing I tested on the Rodecaster Pro 2, and Rode was 100% correct because I tried it with and without the Fethead, and it was noisier with the Fethead. Let's test the SM7B, because even though it's not a Rode mic, there is an SM7B setting within the Rodecaster Pro. This is channel 4. I'm going to choose SM7B, and now you'll notice that it has been set to 55 decibels of gain. I'm going to fade out the NT1, and I'm going to fade in the SM7B. So now this is the SM7B running directly into the Rodecaster Pro 2. And of course, you can see here, processing is turned on. If I turn processing off, this is just sort of the default SM7B sound. You can kind of hear what that sounds like, and I turn processing on, and it cleans it up quite a bit. I can, of course, increase the gain if I need it because this is a very gain-hungry microphone. So now I'm going to turn processing off, and I'm going to stop talking, and you can kind of just hear what that sounds like. Basically, you can now easily use the SM7B or a microphone like it with the Rodecaster Pro without a booster. But I know you're going to want to verify that claim that Rode made. And now this is the SM7B running through the Fethead. So even though the gain is lower, I'm going to stop talking. You can hear what that sounds like. Turn on that processing so you can hear what that sounds like. Turn off the processing. And now I've removed the Fethead from the signal chain. And now this is what that sounds like with no processing. And now if I want to turn on processing for the SM7B, I think listening through my headphones, it's very clear pun fully intended, that the sound is more clear without the booster. And the Fethead is my favorite booster. Like, I really love this. I use it all the time on everything. I think it gives me the best results. Cloud lifters are great too. But that means you don't need any of that with basically any microphone anymore. You can just plug in whatever mic you got straight into the Rodecaster Pro 2, and you know that it's going to be able to work and it's going to be able to sound good. I don't even have this. Oh my gosh, wow. Okay, I can change this. There we go. I realized I had the fader like really, really low and I was still getting enough of a level. So I'm going to level with you and say that that's pretty friggin' amazing. I also wanted smoother faders, just physical functionality of the fader to be smoother. They nailed that. And the faders also do have a felt little like thing there they slide between, so it keeps dust and dirt from getting inside of the Rodecaster Pro, which is great. I wanted audio delay for streaming. Better believe that's in here. Not just the delay effect, but the ability to like delay the output so that you can sync it up with your video if you're having sync issues during a live stream. I wanted easy USB power. That's how the whole thing is powered. I wanted reverb and voice effects. This thing is full of those. And I wanted more functionality in the sound pads. So much so that these aren't even called sound pads now, they're called smart pads. So Rode really like not only addressed everything I wanted, but then went so much further. So that's what we're going to talk about. Now we're on the Rode Procaster running through the Rodecaster Pro. The Procaster and the Rodecaster are two different products. Speaking of products, look, it's a box. This is sort of important to understand how Rode is framing the Rodecaster Pro 2. So what's important to understand is that the Rodecaster Pro 1, the OG Rodecaster, RCP-OG, came out in 2018. And at that time, there was really nothing like this. I promise you. That's why I'm so excited about it. There was nothing like this in the world. It was geared towards podcasting specifically. But then over time, people kind of realized this also works really good for streaming. And so Rode made a whole bunch of updates to make it, a really great tool for streaming and improve the podcasting capabilities. But then, of course, people wanted to take it further and start using it for music production, live event production, all that kind of stuff. And that's where, with the Rodecaster Pro 2, it specifically is called an integrated audio production studio. And that means it's actually specifically designed for podcasting and streaming and music. None of those things are an afterthought or an add-on, or we're trying to make it work the best we can. It is designed for all three of those things. So if you're somebody who does any of those, or especially if you're somebody who does a mix of more than one of those things, this is a pretty amazing tool for you to use. Now, the Rodecaster Pro 2 is a little bit physically smaller than the original. If I can lift this up, I'll set the original Rodecaster down, put the new one on top of it. And what you can kind of see here is basically if you just chopped off channel 1 on the original Rodecaster, that is the size of the Rodecaster Pro 2. And a very important thing to understand is that while this does have the Rodecaster Pro name, and it does have some familiar things from the original, this is actually totally new from the ground up. Like every component internally and externally is basically entirely new and entirely rebuilt. So it's not just sort of the old parts in a new case. In this case, it's entirely new. So we do have 6 physical faders. On the original Rodecaster Pro, we had 8 physical faders, but the biggest difference here is that with these 6 faders, if you notice, none of these are labeled. So that means you can assign these to be whatever you want them to be. And I can show you how to do that very quickly right now. So I'm going to stop recording. Now you're listening to the audio just from my boom mic on my camera, so I can go through and rearrange some of the faders and things while you're recording. So all I need to do is go into the settings and go to faders, and then from there, you can just drag and drop things. So right now, physical fader 1 is an XLR microphone input, but I could move that over here and swap that with channel 4. So now channel 4 is going to fader 1. I could move Bluetooth over to fader 1 if I wanted to. Channel 1 is your main channel, so it does have some features and capabilities that the other channels don't in terms of settings. But as you can see here, I can sort of assign everything to be whatever I want it to be. I'm gonna put these back so I don't get confused for right now. Now what you might notice here is that we have physical and virtual faders. So we have 6 physical faders, but there are virtual channels as well. And those do not have to stay virtual. You can have it set up where you have your 6 channels being used here, and then you can still adjust your virtual channels through the display. Let's just say, for example, I don't need to use Bluetooth, but I really want to use USB 1. I can drag USB 1 to Bluetooth, and now this channel right here, this physical fader, is now being used for what was a virtual channel. So virtual and physical No channels have to be virtual or have to be physical. You can move them all around. And you might notice that there are more lights, more pretty lights on the Rodecaster Pro 2. Each channel has a light, and then also each headphone has a light, and you can fully customize all of them. For example, if you couldn't guess, my favorite color is blue, but blue has always been channel 3. So that means even when I'm the only person using the Rodecaster, I just use channel 3. But now, if I want to be channel 1, I can go to channel 1, I can go to settings, and I can just change the color that I want of channel 1. So I can make it this awesome blue right here, boom. And now channel 1 is blue. So they could all be the same color if you wanted, or you can color code them differently. So now we're back on the pod mic on the Rodecaster Pro 2 to talk about some of the other things here. We do have our headphone knobs right here, which have their individual lights on them, and you can of course change the colors to match your channels however you want, which is great. You have full customization options, which is just so cool. We also have this new button here. This is one way that you can also interact with the touch interface. So for example, right now, I don't have anything happening on these virtual channels, but say I tapped on this virtual channel right here. Now I can use this knob, which has, it's a clicked knob, so it has like, you can feel it clicking, and it's also a push button. So I can turn that channel up or down, get that wherever I want it, and then I'm done. And now this knob is going to control my monitor output instead. So as you're going through the effects and stuff too, you can use this to adjust, like here, for example, is the high pass filter on the channel that I'm using right now. I can use this knob to switch between the settings, and then I can use it to physically adjust them. The Rodecaster Pro 2 has metal faders, and the top of it is all really heavy duty metal, while the side of it is really heavy duty plastic. The faders themselves are much smoother than the original. I really appreciate this very much. And then we've got our same mute and solo buttons. We've got 8 pads here, but instead of just being sound pads, they're smart pads, and I will be smart and explain that a little bit later. And we've also now got physical buttons here to switch between the pages of the pads. You no longer have to go through the menu to do that. Now on the sides and the front of the new Rodecaster, there's nothing. Don't need to worry about it. Everything is pretty much on the back and the bottom. This is now the Rode NT1. It is a condenser mic. So previously I was using the pod mic and the Prodecaster. Those are both dynamic microphones. So we do have our 4 XLR inputs, which are excellent because they are Neutrik combo inputs. So they can take an XLR cable, but they can also take a 1/4 inch input, which is very exciting. You see a microphone, a guitar, and a line insert. That means these are not just XLR inputs for microphones, but they are specifically also designed for line level inputs and instrument. We've got 1/4 inch left and right monitor outputs. We've got 1/4 inch, 4 1/4 inch headphone outputs. We have 2 USB outputs, one for your main computer and one to actually connect a secondary computer or an SSD for storage. We have an Ethernet port, a micro SD card port, the power button, and then the power input is USB-C. So the RCP2 does come, of course, with a power adapter, but it also means because it runs off USB, you can run it off of, almost any USB power source, power bank, that kind of thing. You don't need any special adapters or special cables. Rode did also make a new cover for it. So there's the Rode Cover Pro, and that just sets right on top of it. So if you want to protect it from dust and things while you're not using it, this is great. So I think that's the main physicality of the Rodecaster Pro 2. The reason I kind of blasted through that part of the cast blast, was because I really want to get to what's inside the Rode. But I did forget. On the bottom of the Rodecaster Pro 2, there is a 3/8 inch mount and screws for a Versa mount. So if you want to easily attach this to some kind of arm, like a monitor arm or something, you don't need any adapters, you don't need anything like that. You can just connect it right there and then you're good to go. That might be something I want to do in the future just to free up some desk space. Because as you might know, I'm desperate for more desk space. I've been waiting to do this for weeks at this point, so I'm going to use something very special. I'm going to pull out the Rode Reporter. I've been wanting this microphone for years, and now I have it, and I'm very excited about that. I think this is a very cool microphone that's super well built. It's also an omnidirectional mic, so it doesn't even matter like how I rotate it. It shouldn't really change the sound. But the reason I have this is because you might notice this Rodecaster Pro display has this plastic peel on it. I have been waiting until I can make this video before I get rid of that, because not having that peel there is very appealing to me. It is now time for unnecessary ASMR. Oh, now I can see the screen for real in its full glory for the first time. Oh, it's even better. The thing's even better now. Okay, let's put some fingerprints on this screen. Let's switch back over to the Procaster right now. Now, one really cool thing that you might notice right away is just the interface itself. and how graphical and nice it is to be able to use, in addition to having presets for all kinds of microphones with the actual picture of the mic. So on each of the XLR channels, these are your options. You have line in, you have instrument, you have a dynamic mic, a generic dynamic mic setting, a generic condenser mic setting. You have a pod mic setting, a broadcaster setting, a procaster setting. That's what I'm using right now. The NT1 setting, the NT1A, the RE20, which is not even a Rode microphone, and the SM7B has its own preset within the Rodecaster Pro, because even though those aren't Rode mics, they're popular microphones, and it's nice just to have a preset. But of course, you don't have to use a preset. You can use one of the generic settings and tune it to your liking, or you can start with the preset and then go in and change all the effects that you want. So, for example, right now I am on the Procaster preset. This big knob now, if I turn this, it's going to change my gain level input. And what you might notice is this processing thing is green right here. So if I tap that actually turns off all of the processing. And now you're just hearing the raw Procaster into the Rodecaster Pro. 55 dB of gain, that was the max of the original Rodecaster. This has 76, so that's a lot of gain. This thing went to the gym and gained some gains. But also, like, I'm in a room, so it's not the most well sound treated space in the world, so you probably notice a little more room tone, a little more reverb when I turn the effects back on. This is what Rode has decided is going to help this microphone typically sound its best, and you probably also notice a little bit of processing, like the noise gate and stuff being turned on, all of which have been significantly improved over the original Rodecaster Pro. But here's where things start getting really fun. We have all these processing things right here, so we can go through and we have the high pass filter. And if you notice, this is quite a bit more detailed and graphical than we've seen before. So we can adjust the high pass filter, and then I can just tab through the other effects. So here's the de-esser, for example. This is what this sounds like without the de-esser. Sibilants are silly. Sibilants are silly. De-esser makes quite a big difference. We've got the noise gate, which if I turn off the noise gate, now you can kind of hear, especially like the air conditioner, room tone. If I turn that on, those things disappear when I'm not talking, and then the gate opens up when I am talking. I think that the noise gate on this is so much better than it was on the original Rodecaster Pro, which I just never really used it because I found it a bit too distracting. But in this case, I think that it works really well. And of course, you can dial it into your specific settings. I'm gonna make a whole bunch of videos about more specific effects. We don't need to go into crazy detail for that right now. We've got also the compressor for each individual channel. Should also mention, this is only for channel 1 right now. So this is only affecting this microphone. And you can see also real-time feedback and info. This is what it sounds like without the compressor. This is what it sounds like with the compressor. I am impressed with the compressor. There is also a built-in equalizer. Now it's relatively simple, but we have a lot of flexibility within that. So we have high, medium, and low. And I can adjust that with the knob right here. So now I'm changing the high bell, I'm changing the high gain. I can go to the mids and move that like left and right basically, and then gain up or down for my mids. Same with the lows and same with the low gain. But of course we can turn off the highs. If we don't want to mess with the highs, or we don't want to mess with the mids, or we don't want to mess with anything at all, we can just turn that off. We have the exciter. So just like on the Rodecaster Pro 1, we have the Aural exciter and the big bottom, but while they have the same names, they have been entirely engineered from scratch, from the ground up. So the big bottom, which is still the most hilarious name for a thing, I can tune that to kind of which frequencies it's going to emphasize. Same thing with the Aural exciter, and then you can add in the depth. So the big bottom is what just kind of adds in some of that bass, and the Aural exciter adds in a little more of that like that high-end kind of radio broadcasty sound. If I turn off these settings, you can kind of hear the mic sounds a little more flat, and then I turn these on, and it just sounds a little more exciting. There's a gold feature that did not exist on the original Rodecaster, and that is panning. We are panning for gold. So I can push everything over to one side or everything over to the other side, which is very, very cool. And I know a lot of people wanted that feature in the original Rodecaster Pro. And we also have a high pass filter for each channel. Now I am working within channel 1 here, but if I want to tab over to channel 2, I can just go easily at the top right here. I don't have to like go back out of the menu and into everything every time. Now, everything I did was with the advanced presets turned on. I probably did this a little bit backward, but if I turn that off, we just sort of have simple processing. We have something called depth, sparkle, and punch. So here now we have no depth to my voice, and now I'm adding in some depth. We've got sparkle, which is just sort of that, again, everything's kind of taking the mic from sounding a little bit flat to having a little more of that professional polish on there. And then we've got punch. So now we're going to, sit back in the mix a little bit, but now we're going to punch forward. And again, just sounds really radio broadcasty. So if you just want to do things really simply on the fly, this is really great. If you're new to audio processing, these features are really great as well. And again, this is what it sounds like without any of that stuff turned on. This is just the Procaster and with those things turned on. But of course, I can click advanced and go right there. Now, what you might also see are presets. So on this channel, I have presets. I have neutral. So this is what a neutral preset sounds like. This is what the default podcast studio sounds like. So this kind of has that more like processed spoken word sound. And then we've got broadcast, which is very similar to podcast, but it's sort of got more of that low end punch, those like radio DJs who really love the sound of their own voice kind of thing. It's like, yeah. But you can make your own presets. So if I went through and fine-tuned everything to sound really great on my microphone and my voice, I can click the little plus, and then I can just create a new preset and access it anytime that I want. And you have that flexibility on all of these channels. Even if we go over to Bluetooth, for example, we still have preset. We can still turn on advanced effects. So it doesn't just have to be the XLR channels. It can be any of the channels to have all of this flexibility. You might have noticed, though, there's another tab. This was just processing. We didn't even go into effects. When it comes to effects, this was one of the big things that people wanted from the original Rodecaster Pro. The original Rodecaster Pro, the reason that effects were pretty limited on it or almost non-existent is because it did not have the onboard power to do them reliably, especially across all channels. But now, not only is this like 16 times more powerful literally than the original Rodecaster Pro, but it has enough processing power to handle onboard effects, not just globally for everything, but for every individual channel. You can dial in effects and you can assign them to the smart pad. So for example, I'm just going to turn on the echo because it's fun. If I want to have a dream sequence, or I want to make a reggae song, now I got it right here. We do have reverb. Finally, reverb is here, which is really great for anyone who wants to do live event production or music production or song vocals. And as you can see here, we have a lot of flexibility with reverb. I can turn the reverb down, I can turn it up, we can do low cut, high cut, and we can also change, this is XL reverb, this is double XL large hall, but we can go down to a small room. Now we can even take it further because if you notice right here, it says more effects on smart pads. If I tap that, now I see my pads right here, but I can add something to a smart pad. And this is where we can talk about the smart pads not just being sound pads. With the original Rodecaster, let me switch mics again. With the original Rodecaster, these were just originally sound pads, and they were great. And then they started having a little more functionality and a little more capabilities, but these are specifically not called sound pads. They are smart pads because they can do a lot. They can do sound effects, they can do effects, they can also do mix, they can add EQ and mixing, and they can also be MIDI triggers. So for example, if I start with MIDI, then if I'm connected to a computer and I want this to trigger something or work with a DAW, I can do that all through here, and you have some basic MIDI setup settings right here. This is absolutely amazing. Through MIDI, that means, like I said, you can use this with a DAW. You can also then set it with a program like Ecamm Live or OBS to trigger scenes, to trigger effects. You can do all kinds of stuff. So in theory, this could potentially be like a scene switcher or something for a live stream as well. The mixer setting is where we can do stuff like the sensor beep. I guess that's Morse code, not censoring. Trash talk, which is a really funny name. So if you have somebody who's like on a phone call or something calling in, you can do trash talk, and then you can, I don't know, you can talk about how nice they are, right? It doesn't have to be trash talk. You can talk about how great they are, how great their voice is, how nice they probably smell, and you can do that without them having to hear. Basically, it lets people in studio talk without having it to go out to anybody who's on the phone line. You also have fade in and fade out. So if you want your audio to fade in or out, you can assign that to a smart pad. And you have back channel communication. You do want to be able to talk to other people. Like right here, you can choose who you want that to go to. So for example, say I'm on channel 1 and my co-host is on channel 2, but we have guests on channel 3 and 4. I can set it so back channel just goes to 1 and 2, which means if we're doing the show and my co-host is like breathing too heavily on the mic, I can quickly push the button and say like, hey, back away from the mic real quick. And it's not going to distract the guest who's telling their story because they're not going to hear it in their headphones. And look at that. There's ducking finally. Buck likes the ducking. Basically, that means it's going to temporarily lower the other channels while the sound is present in the host's microphone, channel 1. So channel 1 right here, basically it means if channel 1 is talking, everything else is going to get ducked down a little bit. And of course, we've got our sound effects in here. We can record new sound effects. So I can say like, man, the Rodecaster Pro 2 is amazing. And now that I've got that sound sample there, it means I can edit it a little bit, like fading it in and out. I can trim it if I don't want that space at the end, so there's more editing functionality built into it. There's also the chance for me to rename it, so I can type in the name if I want to. I don't even need the computer for any of this. I can also change, of course, the color of the pad if I want it to be a different color, and I can clear it if I don't want that sound sample there anymore. The reason we got here in the first place is because in the channel 1 settings, it said more effects on smart pads. So now I tap that, go over here, and there are effects. So now I can use the smart pads. I have reverb turned on, but as you notice, you're not hearing it. Now I push the sound pad and reverb is turned on. I have it latched, so that means when I push the button, it's going to turn on, but I can also change that to just as I have the button pressed down, it will do reverb. Same thing for echo, so I can talk like, this is amazing, and whoa! I think that's really fun. Right? In space! There's also this megaphone feature, because now I can just sound like I'm talking into a megaphone. And you can decide right here, so as I can see, like I can turn on which ones I want at the same time. So I can have reverb and echo. What? Mind blow. We've got a voice disguiser. So right now I sound like this guy, but
now I sound like that guy because my voice is disguised. Yeah.
But if you want a little more control, we've also finally got
pitch shifting. Yeah. Maybe that's a little scary.
What about something like this? What about doing it
in real
time?
Whoa!
This is very fun.
By the way, there are multiple controls for pitch shift. So right now there's the coarse setting, which of
course
kind of
this is more
noticeable jumps between
frequencies.
But if I go to the
fine setting, then it's a much
more
gradual transition
between low
and high. I can go low
to the flow or
high to the sky. And echo!
I'll stop for now because if you're still here, thank you. We do still currently have the 8 pages of smart pads. So there's 8 physical pads and then 8 pages, so you can just go between them pretty easily. So now everything that I have covered so far has really only been on one channel. I just kind of wanted to walk you through what it was like to use one channel of the Rodecaster Pro 2 and all of the effects and all of the functionality. But of course, that's just a small part of what this can do. Just to give some of the basics, like I mentioned out here with the dual USB ports on the back, I can be recording internally to the Rodecaster. I can also be recording then on my computer into a DAW or sending out a stream or whatever. And then I can also connect a hard drive and record to that simultaneously. So I could be recording like 3 places at once. And you can also connect a second computer. So the level of redundancy is great, but also if you need to send your signal to multiple places, a really good example is if someone's streaming a game and they need to have the game on one computer, but the stream being run off of a second computer, and they want to be able to talk to people on Discord or something while they're gaming, but they don't want that audio going out to the stream, you can route that all through here. We've also got a lot more Bluetooth functionality, not just for connecting a phone call, but for also remembering devices. I mean, let's go into Bluetooth right now, actually. Why not? Here's Bluetooth. Let's connect my phone. Go to Bluetooth connections. We'll search for a device. There we go. And just like that, I am now paired to my phone. I'm just going to go to Artlist and play some royalty-free music here. So now I'm playing a song on my phone wirelessly. And now I can bring in that music here. So now my phone, this could be a voice, this could be anything like that. And now it's happening through Bluetooth. That kind of functionality has sort of been there with the Rodecaster Pro. This is just a little bit easier. But now I can also store multiple devices. So if I want to switch between them really easily, that's much simpler than it was before. Let's now just go through some of the menu settings. Again, reminding this is beta firmware. Some stuff might change by the time you get the release, but it's going to be at least this good, if not better. So right here we have the faders. I can't go into that right now because I'm recording, but that's everything that we saw with assigning the faders and moving things around like that, changing the colors. We've got outputs. So there's headphones, monitor, storage. I don't have a hard drive connected, listen, multi-track, and processing. This is the master output, so if I want to do something that's going to change the effect on all the channels, regardless of what their processing is before it goes out, this is where I can do that. And I can tab over and go into the output delay. I don't really want to do that right now, but this is where I could turn that on and then delay the output by a number of milliseconds to make it sync up with my video source if I'm doing a live stream or a broadcast and things just aren't syncing up properly. I don't have to do it within my software. Most software like Ecamm or OBS or whatever does have a delay that you can add to your audio, but it's nice to just be able to build that in right here. And it's great to know that even if you don't have access to some of that software, you still have that functionality here no matter what. That was a big feature that I really wanted. I'm so happy to see that it's here. We've got multi-track output, so we can do stereo or multi-track. Right now I'm recording in stereo, so I can't go in and turn on multi-track output. We've also got listening. So now this basically means that the solo button right here, the green button on the bottom of each channel, if I press that, it can be an after fader listen or it can be a pre-fader listen. And that's just whatever you want. So do you want to always hear that at the Unity level, or do you want to hear it how it sounds in the mix that you're actually using and working with? We have monitor outputs. This is very cool. This is something I know I got a lot of questions about with the Rodecaster. You can enable auto mute output, which means that monitor output will be muted when a microphone channel fader is lifted to prevent feedback. So right now, I don't know if you can see this right here, but there's this little yellow thing. This is my monitor level. So my dial right here is controlling what would be the level to my monitors if they were connected, but it is yellow and it is X'd out because I have a fader moved up. If I move this fader down, you will see this turn green. And then once I turn it up, it's basically what we don't want to have happen is the microphone to pick up my voice coming out of the speaker, and then it causes all kinds of feedback and just really funky stuff. And you also have the option for fixed output level, which means the monitor output level will be set to line level and cannot be adjusted. So it's just going to be the same output level no matter what, which is a good thing if you don't want crazy volume shifts on your monitors. That can sometimes cause a lot of problems in certain situations. We have headphones. So we've got presets for the Rode NTH 100s that I'm using right now, which are like my favorite headphones ever. But you can also choose if you're using high sensitivity headphones. That's something like the earbuds and things that come with your phone, kind of simple headphones. And you've also have the option if you're using some other kind of special headphones, you can use low sensitivity headphones as well. This is of course now where we can go into the smart pads and we can edit the smart pads like I showed you earlier. So there's multiple ways to get to a lot of these settings. We have a display option, which is pretty cool. So we can change the display's brightness. There is, you might be able to see this little sensor right here. It means there is a sensor to choose auto brightness if you want to do that. Or if you're a control freak like me, you can turn that off and then you can just decide how bright you want the display to be. Right now it's at full brightness. It is a very beautiful display. You can also then tab over here and choose how bright you want your buttons to be. And you can also individually adjust the active and inactive states, how bright you want the difference to be between active and inactive. You also have the option to set the display to dim after a certain amount of time or never. Metering. I meant to turn this on earlier. Broadcast meters. Just turn that on. When you get your Rodecaster Pro 2, or if you have the original, turn on broadcast meters, because that means now when you go, you have actual numbers. It's a little better here since you can see the actual level of the fader. But now you know if you want to be at negative 16 dB, you can just boom, put that right there and you're all set. And this does happen to have haptic feedback. So I've been using it without haptic feedback, but you can turn on feedback on hold or that it's always on, which means every time you push a button, you're going to get haptic feedback. We also have show options. So a lot of stuff that used to be able to do in the app on your computer, you can just do directly in here. You can see I've currently got 7 recordings. I can't open that because I'm recording right now, but you can go back into your recordings and see them and adjust them and trim them and add in little fades, some basic editing. We can also rename the show and we can add on new shows as well. Oh, I can do an icon for my show. I'm surprised they don't have like a Vegemite icon. I'll do the gold road dot. So that's my default show. and then I can have a separate show. If you use this for multiple projects or you share your Rodecaster Pro 2 with multiple people or it's in like a studio environment, everybody can have default stuff built in, presets, settings, shows, smart pad libraries, all that can be built in internally. Now under networking, we do have built-in Wi-Fi, so that means all of your updates and things can just be done wirelessly. You don't even need to connect it to your computer. You have a lot of functionality over Wi-Fi. We also have wired, so you can connect wired Ethernet. Again, this video would be 5 hours long if I covered everything. Now, the very last thing that I wanted to test, I do want to put some of the music capabilities. I want to see, I've never done this. I have not tested it out yet. I'm going to grab a guitar. I'm going to hijack the jack for channel 2. So now what that means is I will go to channel 2. I'm going to switch it over from the pod mic to an instrument. So now it has changed that. And if I turn this up, oh, that's amazing. This sounds a little bit dry though, don't you think? So let's turn on processing. Let's go into reverb. Let's turn on some reverb. Oh. But we also have echo delay. So while I think, actually, sorry, before I give my thoughts, I am incredibly curious to know how this might perform with a bass. Oh, wow, look at that. Wow, that's pretty friggin' sweet. But of course, most of the time that you're running an instrument through something like this, you're probably going to be running it into a DAW or something where you're recording it and processing it further. I can only imagine where something like this can be taken in the future. This video has already gotten significantly longer than I expected it to be, so I am going to save other comparisons, other in-depth things for future videos, just for all of our sanity. But the last thing that I wanted to address was the idea of should you upgrade from the original Rodecaster Pro to the Rodecaster Pro 2. Now, the Rodecaster Pro 2 does have a retail price of $699 US, which I think is an amazing price. The original is $599, so for $100 more, you get like thousands of dollars more worth of stuff. If you exploded this, not literally, but saw everything that's in here and bought the equivalent gear to do everything that's in here separately, it's not only going to cost you way more than this does, but it's also going to be very, very frustrating because you're going to have just entire racks of gear, and this is all just one compact, super awesome thing. So if you're somebody who doesn't have a Rodecaster and you're in the market for one and you're deciding, should I get the less expensive original or the slightly more expensive new one, 100% get the new one. It is a mic drop on all of the other kind of like podcast recorder mixers that are out there. Nothing even comes close to what this can do. And this is only the beginning. I'm using the freaking beta firmware. There's a lot of possibility and a lot that you can do in here. And it sounds great and it works great and it's really fun to use. So if you're trying to choose between both, I definitely say get the Rodecaster Pro 2. Now, if you're somebody who has the original and you kind of have that fear of missing out, that FOMO of new gear. Maybe you've got a bad case of gear acquisition syndrome, and you just kind of want the shiny new thing, which I fully understand. Do you need to get the Rodecaster Pro? The thing that I really want to emphasize is just because something new comes out doesn't mean the thing that you have is somehow magically less good. This is still just as good, just as capable, just as full features as it always has been. I personally don't think we should expect to see any new firmware updates for this. It's kind of been pushed to the limit over the past like almost 4 years. So I think it's in essentially its final form, but it is a very capable final form to be in. And if you have the original Rodecaster and you love it and it's working really well for you, it's great. There's no need to update. If there's something that is left to be desired, if you want instruments to be connected, if you want more clean gain, if you want cleaner headphone preamps, if you want all the built-in effects, if you want any of the things that this has that doesn't, well, then that would maybe make sense to update. But only you can really make that decision. The point I want to make is just because something new comes out doesn't mean the thing that you have is any less good. My original Rodecaster is still going to get a ton of use. Like, it is not going anywhere anytime soon. I still absolutely love it, and I've loved every minute that I've spent using it, and I'm excited to put a lot more time on this one. And of course, if you have questions or comments, you can leave them, and I'll do my best to answer them. I'm also learning this myself, so there's probably definitely things I left out, things I might have said incorrectly, even though I tried very hard to be as accurate as possible. And the biggest thing that I wanted to test here was to see if this lives up to the hype that the marketing has. You know, Rode has these amazing videos that came out that make this look like the coolest thing ever. Is it actually that? I think the answer is like a resounding yes, it is absolutely awesome. And speaking of things that are absolutely awesome, thanks to everyone who helps support my channel and my Rodecaster Pro obsession through Patreon and YouTube channel memberships. And if you're as big of a fan of the Rodecaster Pro as I am, you might want to go down the road to check out these other Rodecaster Pro videos.